And let's get one more from this side of the room. I don't want to pick on anybody if you don't get any volunteers. Right here we go.
Yeah, I'm still thinking, but my group did come up with a good one. Oh, sorry, I'm Joel Damaris with Impact City. Ted Lasso.
Ted Lasso is a great one. I think we had a Ted Lasso in here too. Yeah. All right, guys, well, thank you all for participating in our fun little game. But we're all here for our panel today on building and coaching your dream team. I'm joined here by our three panelists. We have Erin Longenecker, who is the owner of Scooters Coffee. Working in PR and communications for Gerdau, we have Kayla Bentle. And then we have the Director of Finance and Admin for Centennial Contracting and Roofing, and that is Jenny Odom. So we're going to go ahead and kick things off with our panel. We're going to start left to right and just ask our first question. If you have any questions that you would like to submit to the panel, maybe give those to Victoria or Chloe, and they can get those to me, and we'll have a little 5 minutes at the end to maybe open it up to you guys. Let's start with the first question on our list. What's the biggest mistake people make when building a team?
I don't know that everybody makes this mistake, but I think the mistake that I made when I first started was focusing more on skills versus personality. So I learned I can train most of the skills I need to be a barista, to be a leader, but I can't train for personality. And I look for just decent people to work on my team.
Oh, we're all answering.
Yeah, all
okay. Just to kind of piggyback off of Erin's, I would say to be able to hold a conversation. I think a lot of stuff is put on social media these days because people are don't know how to hold the conversation anymore. So just being able to hold a conversation and go back and forth, they're listening not only from the person who's interviewing, but the interviewer back and forth. So I would say a little bit of both.
So I actually had hiring for more of somebody who can not just have the skills, but somebody who's also a cultural fit. I know at Centennial, our culture is huge. So I think that sometimes we fail to clearly define our culture and our expectations before we hire someone. We also sometimes can get into a rush to hire someone and just fill a seat versus waiting for the right person. And when we rush into it, I think that I know that from personal experience, we've hired several people who just kind of rushed to fill the seat. And some of them turned out great, but some of them have not because they didn't meet our culture and we didn't clearly define what our goals were and our expectations. So I think that's a huge part of it. It's just making sure you're very upfront about what your goals as a company are, and just making sure that they can follow with those and want to.
Building on culture and hiring for personality and not just skills, what does a healthy workplace culture look like for you?
I think in our space, I talk a lot about building a team. Like I think as you look at different sports teams and as you look at the ones that are successful are the ones that have fun together. And truly enjoy what they do, right? And they can. There's not too many alpha males or alpha females, or we all know what part we play in that sport, and we enjoy working with the others that play the other parts. And so that's what I look for. I have a zero tolerance policy for people that are catty. Like I just don't do well with it. We'll have a couple conversations about it, but that's the culture that I try to build is we are a team and everybody has to like being here and like everybody that they work with.
I would say the help factor, not being afraid to ask for help and not being afraid to offer that help. Because if you don't kind of mesh together, you're going to have the people that just leave me alone, let me do my thing. And I think sometimes that's where mistakes come from. So just not being afraid to ask for help and not being afraid to also give the help as well.
So to me, a healthy culture is one where our employees feel supported, they feel valued, and they also feel like it's a safe place where they can communicate openly. I I don't think an employee should be afraid to be able to ask a question. I don't think that they should be able to not be able to admit to a mistake that they made. And one of the ways that they're going to be able to feel supported is, you help them by, they know that the leadership and their teammates are there to support them. So they don't have to have fear of making a mistake because they think they're immediately going to get fired. They know that you're going to be there to coach them, to teach them. And then just also a great culture includes accountability. So, and that accountability needs to start from the top down. So when you see someone, the owner or anyone in leadership, own their mistake to the team, and then also how they're going to fix that, I think it also makes everybody else feel a little bit safer. And I know at Centennial, we just want to make sure that our employees know that they matter and that they understand the importance of ownership no matter what role or position that they're in.
Jenny, you can hold the mic and we'll work right to left for this question. As we talk about what a healthy workplace culture looks like, follow-up question is, as your teams grow, because I know that all three of you have experienced growth within your teams, with Gerdau and with Centennial and Scooters, how do you maintain culture as your team grows? As you experience growth, how do you maintain that healthy workplace culture?
So you have to be intentional about your culture as your team grows. So culture doesn't maintain itself automatically as the company grows. The standards and the habits that you allow are going to eventually become the foundation of your company later. So if you let things slide too often and you don't address those quickly, those problems are going to continue to grow. So we constantly talk about our mission. We constantly talk about our values. We constantly talk about expectations and goals throughout our company. And so the repetition, it really matters. So people need to be reminded of what the company stands for, and they also need to be reminded of why that matters.
I would say in our industry, we focus a lot on safety. And whenever we have those safety goals that are met, our guys and our women are celebrated a lot. It's not just here's a lunch, good job. We constantly have lunches. We have different celebrations up on our screens that are throughout the mill, different giveaways. So it's not just, you got a lunch, guys. We're so proud of you. We celebrate when we meet those milestones to show, we're going to showcase you all the time, and just to kind of keep those hopes and dreams and celebrations and cultures up. So we focus on that, and whenever we hit that, we go big.
So the thing that I use to build my culture and really hire my team is called The Ideal Team Player by Patrick Lencioni. I don't know how you pronounce his name for sure, but and my team knows it, but they don't know it. But I'm constantly, and my managers are constantly evaluating our team on that. So if you haven't read the book, I highly recommend it. It's an audiobook. It's a quick and easy read. Patrick's books are all really quick and easy to read. But he talks a lot about humble, hungry, and smart. And so humble is kind of that growth mindset that they were talking about. You don't have all the answers. You're willing to go out and find them. Hungry means that you're looking for that next step. You're always looking for more opportunities. You're looking to how can I better help the team, things like that, like Kayla said. And then smart is a quick catch, right? So you're able to kind of, catch on quickly and move along, and it doesn't take, that's kind of what I look for. So when I'm in the store and I'm watching, and when my managers are watching, we're looking for that behavior. And so I think that plays into that team atmosphere, right? And so when people see that people are willing to help out, like Kayla mentioned, or people see that they're willing to do those things, and I'm coaching behind the scenes when they're not. I'm like, hey, you're standing there working on your phone, and these people over here are working hard. How do you think they feel about what they see over there? And so coaching to those moments is how I think I maintain that culture, because then my team sees that, right? And so then they're okay calling that behavior out as well when I'm not there. And so I think that it's similar to what Jenny said. It's always coaching, and it's always giving them that feedback, because if you're not coaching, you're saying their behavior is okay. And so how do you help that?
We had a couple notes there about feedback. What is your approach to giving feedback to your team? Want to go over that for the three of you?
I hate it personally, but I know that it's a needed piece, right? So I think as a person, everybody wants to know how they're doing. And so I think if you don't know how you're doing, you think, generally speaking, especially the team players, right? They're the humble ones, they think they're not meeting that mark. And so giving them that feedback, I think, is super important. And I'm very open and honest with my team, and I tell them, feedback from me is a gift. Like, if I stop giving you feedback, I gave up on you. Like, honestly, that I know it's a bad personality trait for me, but I think that if I'm giving you feedback, it's because I know you can do better. And you're going to take that feedback and you can do something with it. So if I stop giving you feedback, it's because I've given you enough and you haven't done anything with it, that you're not taking that. And so I think coaching in the moment is definitely important. But I also think having those direct conversations with people when that coaching, afterwards, and saying, okay, this is why I stopped you. This is why I told you in that moment what you needed to do was wrong. And it could just be, we had an instance today where they weren't quite making the drinks in the right order that I wanted them to make them in. And there was a reason why, right? So in the moment, I was like, no, get that one out, get that one out, get that one out. But then afterwards, I took her aside and I was like, okay, this is why I had you get that one out. This is, and explaining the why behind it so that it mattered to her and she could understand why I was giving that feedback, because I think that's important.
I think going back to my original answer on the talking, when you're given the feedback, it's not like, you did awesome, good job, and it ends there. That was awesome. Where did you get that idea from? Okay, so what are some others that you would like to, other ideas that you have in mind? It's not just like on our soccer video, man, good job. Well, what was good? Let me tell you what I did, and here's some more ideas that I have to just keep it going. And whenever you get that feedback so often from a lot, then you're able to put new, I would say not new things into play, but start building on it. If all that made sense. Just don't stop it as good job.
Yeah. And kind of the same, it's just, I think feedback should happen in the moment. So whether it's good, whether it's bad, but especially the good and the positive needs to make sure that feedback happens in the moment. Or if it can't happen right then, of course, as close as the situation happened as possible. So the longer you wait, the harder and the more uncomfortable I think that it becomes to talk to everyone that's involved. So when I give feedback, I try to be respectful. Again, we are all people, and we all deserve respect. So I try to be respectful, and my goal is never to tear someone down. So I just want to make sure that I help them improve, and I want them to know that I'm trying to help them improve and not tear them down or put them down. So I want them to know that my feedback is coming from a good place of wanting the best for them rather than criticizing them.
Kind of shifting gears just a little bit. Have you ever made a bad hire, maybe someone that wasn't a good culture fit, somebody that didn't last very long, or just something that just generally would be seen as not a great hire? And what did it teach you about hiring moving forward?
So I think anyone who has hired long enough has made a bad hire. So what that's taught me is that our cultural fits are just as important, if not more important, than skill sets. So I've ignored early red flags and thought that they'll get better. And just because the position was filled, or I hoped that things would improve over time. But usually your instincts are right on, and you just have to admit that to yourself. So those experiences taught me the importance of hiring to align with our mission and values. So again, like our mission, our values at our company are huge, and we make sure that that's our guiding principle for everything. So we want people who are driven by integrity, accountability, and our desire to serve others well. So not just people who can perform tasks. So a bad hire doesn't affect leadership, it affects everyone in the company.
I think the bad hires, you also have to go back and look at what were our goals for that. Okay, we didn't meet that goal. What part of the goal was kind of messed up? What do we need to kind of tweak going forward to look for? Our industry and our location sometimes can have a lot of high turnover, whether it's safety related, whether it's skill set related. And I think you just need to go back and, okay, our goal for this part of the mill was this. it didn't work. So is it more, we need to look for someone who has more experience in an industrial field so they know how important safety is? Do we need to go back and look for someone who has more skill set that didn't work out? So go back and kind of look at your goals that you had. I think that is across the board, not just my specific industry.
I've had a lot of bad hires, and not, I mean, just over my career, right? I think each time I'm able to go back to my interview. I do keep very thorough interview notes, and so each time I have that bad hire, I go back and I look at those notes, and I'm like, okay, what did I miss in the interview? And I can almost always find it. And so I think each time it's helped me identify those red flags, to Jenny's point earlier, in those conversations. Because anybody can tell you in an interview anything you want to hear, right? And it's how do you read between the lines and get that information out. I think Simon Sinek is the one that I will tell you, I don't know anything on my own. Everything I've learned by reading books. So I refer to these people a lot. But Simon Sinek has the Navy SEALs. He's worked with the Navy SEALs on what do they look to hire. And he talks a lot about like the high performers and the low team players. And he would take a high team player with low performance every day over a high performer with low team play. And just nobody wants to work with a jerk. And so when you have a jerk on your team, everybody's going to stop performing. And so you have to get rid of that jerk. And so how do you identify that, again, that nice person in that interview? And so I really just talk to my people in my interview just to get to know them a little bit. I kind of plant a negative question in there just to see how they take that negative question, because if you talk enough to them about something negative, they're either going to continue to drill on the negative and it's like, okay, we're done, I know that, or they're going to continue to spin it positively, right? And they're going to continue to find the good in it. And so that's what I've learned mostly is just to continue to ask those questions that can get them to be negative.
Just continuing on with performance, how do you handle an employee who isn't performing, but you see the potential that they have to be a high performer for your team?
I talk to them. I'm like, hey, what's happening? Like, maybe they used to be a high performer and now they're not. I ask them, like, hey, what's going on? What happened? Something seems a little off. Really dive into what. Maybe their grandma just got cancer and they're dealing with that, and that couldn't be it. And so how do we navigate through that? Or it could be they don't have the passion for the business anymore, and so I think understanding what it is that's making them a low performer. And then I jokingly tell them, I'm like, I need a little more from you, and kind of just poke them a little bit, try to figure out what it is that inspires them and can get them motivated a little bit. And then I use that to help motivate them. Oh my gosh, bless you. Bless you. I love it. I'm allowed to.
I think sometimes you also just kind of have to take it back to the basics and do the buddy system. I'm going to kind of pair you up with someone in this part of the department that has either been here for a long time or excels. And then obviously in my industry, to keep saying that over and over again, after this, okay, and now I'm going to put you over here with this person. If it's not broke, don't fix it. I came from education, and that's a big deal, is to kind of buddy you up and partner you up with the skills that you need. So sometimes you just kind of have to take it back to the basics and find that, like Erin said, what's going on? What's going on? Okay, now that I know that, let's do this first.
So handling an employee who isn't performing but has potential, I try to make my expectations very clear. So I try to help them understand where the gap is between where they are and where they need to be. I make sure to support them. So again, you never know kind of what they might be going through personally, so you kind of have that conversation with them. Is there something going on? Is there something I can help with? I'm here to support you. Do you have the tools that you need to be able to perform to your best potential? And also just guide them to improve. So I also am all about encouraging them and just reminding them of what they've already accomplished. So I think having some positivity in that is really big. And you just help them see the potential in themselves. So what you see potential, so help them see potential and where that gap is. Sometimes people perform better when they know that someone genuinely cares about them and when they know that someone is there to support them in their capabilities. So at the same time, potential isn't enough. Performance does still matter. So accountability has to stay a part of the conversation. And so supporting and holding on to them so that we can exist together and hold each other accountable.
I'm going to ask a targeted question to each three of you, or to all three of you. So we'll start with Centennial. Centennial Contracting Roofing, I've gotten to spend a lot of time with Ginny and her team. They have a great workplace culture. They're a really fun group. I don't think I've ever seen them have a quarrel. They're always, at least a serious one. They're always having a good time. Where does that start? Where did that start for Centennial? And how did y'all develop that culture before you got to the point that you're at now in terms of size and staff and those types of things?
So I've been with Centennial for 12 years. I've seen us grow from literally just the mom, dad, son that ran it, and then me and like one or two other salesmen to we have 13 employees now. And so we're still small, but we hold on to each other. It really starts at the top, and just Ryan is our owner now. His parents have retired. And so Ryan and I hold each other accountable constantly. So, hey, like you said you were going to do this, but you're not. We do have a fantastic time. So at work every day, like for 12 years, I have not once regretted coming to work. And the job that I had previously, I cried every day on my way home, which I think that we can all kind of relate to that thing that we've had. And I was in that position for 10 years. So I think it's just we have fun. We know and respect each other. We hold each other accountable for what we're supposed to do, but we also respect the culture. Again, that's just a huge thing in our business. And just we know the goals. And as long as we are working towards those goals, we kind of just let the people have fun. We also have rules like, no cell phones and team meetings, things like that, so that even before the meeting starts, so that way people have to talk to each other. And so they're not just sitting in there before the meeting starts all on their phone because they feel uncomfortable. Like, you have to interact. We also do a lot. We're about to do another one. We're going to K1 Speed, for goodness sake. And like the guys, we're going to race go-karts. And we do things like that. We do once a year, we do an employee outing like that where it's something super fun. Our guys are super competitive because they're in sales. They're going to be competitive. And so we kind of feed into that. Like, what would everybody like? What would be interesting for them that they would have fun with? And then we also do a family event every year where everyone brings their spouse, they bring their kids, and we just let them know who we are and our culture, and just a place that's really enjoyable to work for.
Kayla, you're with Gerdau. Gerdau is one of the largest employers in Midlothian. I think the second or third largest employer in Midlothian. When you're hiring at that scale and at that volume, how do you, because at the same time, you're also one of the most, liked places to work. A lot of your employees that I've spoken with, that I know throughout town, love working for Gerdau. There's a lot that stay with you guys for long periods of time. How do you manage that volume while also upholding culture and maintaining and retaining employees?
Oh, that's a good question. Kind of going back to kind of on what Jenny said and what I said earlier about the celebrating the small wins, knowing I keep saying guys because we just of course have a larger man to woman ratio, but our employees, they know, like we've had someone, we just celebrate our 50th year that's in there for 49 years. He's been there the whole thing, so he will tell you that it has come a long way because of the celebrating the people who work there. They know, they have seen it get better over time. Like, we have something that's called the swag closet, and literally they come with like a postcard from their manager, their name on it, and they come to me, and it's a closet of shirts, hats, coolers, umbrellas, chairs, earbuds, everything. And they're like little elementary kids, like, look what I got. And it's one of the best parts of my day. And sometimes they'll come with, I had one in my lunchbox and one in my desk. They'll come with 2 swag cards, and they're like, Kayla, I got my. So it's just, I don't know, it's the little things. They know that they're going to be taken care of. They know that each year it gets better and better and better whenever you're celebrating not them, but you're celebrating the whole mill, the whole company, because it has truly gotten to where we celebrate everything you do. It's not just come into work. It's this. I know to expect this. So we do have a lot of people that have stayed there for a really long time. They're taken care of in a really good way, from the little things like the swag cards to all the things that I guess are different and change every year.
Erin, you have a unique perspective on the panel as you own Scooters Coffee. And as a business owner, what is one thing that you have seen that maybe people should stop doing while managing people?
I think my biggest challenge as owner has been going from 1 store to 3 stores. And so as, you know, when we opened my first store, I was the store manager. I was in there every day. I was that store manager. And I think as we, continue to grow, going from store manager to now the owner, I had to understand that I was a giant when I came in the room. Right. And so there's another book that I read, The Promises of Giants, and it's a gentleman that wrote the book, and he's like this 6'10" basketball player, and he never has a good time. Like, he's always very aware of who he is. And he let loose one day on the dance floor. He opens the book up with, he finally, some song came on. He was like, all right, I'm dancing, and he started dancing, and he turned around and looked, and there was a guy on the ground with a bloody nose, and he didn't know this, but he did it. So he found out that he was dancing, and because he's so big, he swung his arm out, and he gave this guy a bloody nose. And so the story is, you are a giant when you walk in the room. And so to everybody, perspective wise. And so how do I come in and knowing that I'm that giant and not leaving bloody noses wherever I go, because I have that ability. I have a very intense personality. I'm very passionate about my business. It's my literal life savings on the line that these people are working for, right? And so as I come into the store every day, I need to take a deep breath, understand who I am, remember that I'm the giant and I'm walking in this building, and that I don't want to leave bloody noses. I want to do more. Celebrating wins is not easy for me. I'm a problem solver. I'm a fixer. So I'm always finding the problems so that I can fix them. So how do I take a step back and remember that in this situation, I'm going to celebrate the wins? And so it's literally every day before I go into the store, I have to take a deep breath, and I have to remember that's who I am when I'm walking into the store. And if I don't, and my team will call me out, and they'll be like, Erin, and that'll be my cue. And I've told them, I was like, this isn't a strength for me. My strength is fixing problems. And so I need you guys to help me with that. So if I do come in and I start to leave bloody noses, let me know so that I can fix it, and I can take a step back and fix it. And they'll call me out.
We've discussed growth kind of across the board here, and how your 3 different businesses have grown in different ways. As you experience growth, how do you develop leaders within your team? That's obviously, the more employees you have, the more staff you have, the more leaders that you need within that staff. So how do you develop leaders within your team?
I would say keep track of the goal setting and keep them reminded of, okay, this is where you were because you worked hard, you got here. Now, what did that take? Okay, what do you think it will take to get to the next step of where you want to go? Always keep them motivated and encouraged. You're going to have the people that's their job. They're fine where they are. They don't want to go any further. They don't want any more responsibilities. But the people who don't, and they stay the hungry, I guess, like Erin mentioned earlier, work with them. Okay, well, and then again, the conversation, well, I need this. Okay, so let's do it. Let's work together. And just the encourage to just keep on stepping up. And, I don't think that you always need to bug the people who are satisfied where they're at. Don't you want to do this? Come on. If they're content, let them be content, because there's a lot of other hungrier people out there all the time. I think that there was a job I interviewed for several years ago, and they kind of said, what is your goal? And I said, to sit in your chair. I don't want to be on this side of the table. I want to be on the other side of the table. I think the things like that go a long way.
When I see initiative and ownership and consistency in someone, I will start giving them more responsibility in small steps. So I think that leadership is built through experience and not just instruction. So sometimes people feel like they're not ready for a leadership opportunity, but part of my role is to help them prepare for being a leader. So I don't want them to wait until they feel comfortable. I want to give them small steps to be able to give them a little bit of encouragement so that they do feel strong, and see what I see in them. So I try to create opportunities for people to grow. I try to create opportunities for them to problem solve and to lead in ways that may stretch them a little bit, but it also ways that I can support them along that way.
As you talk about supporting them and those types of things, or did we coming back to you?
Yeah.
Oh, sorry.
Sorry.
Yeah.
No, just to take, I mean, obviously what they said spurred some thoughts in mind, but I think being very careful about what that leadership role looks like for each individual. I have 3 assistant managers at my store. I don't have a store manager. I just have 3 assistant managers. But I think that's because they each have strengths in very different areas, and I don't yet have that person that has strengths in multiple areas. And so I think what I did is identified what areas they had those strengths in, and then give them, similar to what Jenny said, give them a small more empowerment, and kind of push them a little bit, and then watch them develop, and then just be available for them when things come up that they're like, hey, I don't know how to handle this. I think it's asking them, how do you think you should handle it first before I tell them? Again, hard for me, but it's, that gives them a little bit more of that ambition to solve it themselves the next time. Sorry.
No, you're good. What does coaching your team look like in your role? Obviously, the 3 of you have 3 different roles. So what does coaching your team look like in your roles?
I think it's really, it's just like I consider myself a head coach. The head coach doesn't call the plays, each play, maybe in some sports. I never played sports, I just guess. But I think the head coach doesn't get to call the plays, right? The head coach comes in, kind of watches from a side and says, okay, this is what I think needs to change and these things. And then I have that conversation with my leaders. In the moment, I might have a direct conversation just as I have to, because I can't let that fumble happen or whatever that is. I can't let that happen, go out that window. So if I see a drink that's made wrong, I have to stop it right away. Even if my assistant didn't catch it, I have to stop that. That's my job. But generally speaking, I try to play the head coach role. I try to stay out of the day-to-day of the store, and then let them do that. But then I'll have a separate conversation with them and be like, okay, why did you run that play? I think we should have ran this play instead. Let's talk through which way was better.
I just get to be the mascot and the cheerleader. The PR, I'm like, look what we did. I'm going to make this. I want to do this video because we did so good and we did this. And coming up with the different ways to tell my team, I want to do this. So we did it. So I get to be, I guess, the fun one. But because, like I said, we celebrate all of our workers out there and all this goals, the safety goals and everything that we got to meet. In the video that we did to promote this, I know I got really mad at Alec and had to throw some notebooks down because he wasn't running fast enough, but inside I was like, go Alec, you did it. You made that shot. So I get to have, I've got the fun part that I enjoy because I don't have to be the you did. I get to be the fun one.
So in my role, I coach multiple departments. So we've got the office team, we've got our sales team, and then we also have our subcontractors. So coaching to me is more about developing the people than simply directing them. So I try not to jump in and solve every problem immediately. I ask questions to help them think through the situation themselves. If I solve every issue for them, they're never going to grow, and eventually the leadership becomes the bottleneck. So you've really got to step back and ask questions and let them kind of figure some of it out on their own while you guide them. But so in our on our team, like, we just want everyone to build confidence. We want them to build the decision-making skills. We want them to have ownership over whatever position they're in. And so coaching, for me, it's a little slower up front sometimes, but I think that creates a stronger, more capable team as time goes on.
We've talked a lot kind of on the positive end of work culture and team cohesion and those types of things. I want to shift gears a little bit because it's not always rainbows and unicorns. And so how do we handle conflict within your teams?
Sorry, I am one of those that I have to have little notes to kind of look at. But so I think that conflict happens a lot when there's miscommunication or there's assumptions. Those create unresolved frustrations. So especially, I think assumptions help create a lot of the conflict. So we just try to address issues early and just avoid conflict makes things worse. So as uncomfortable as it is, you've got to hit it head on and before it becomes something bigger. So I encourage honest conversations with our team, and because most situations become fixable if they talk it out. So that way, if we just communicate openly and clearly with each other, I think that it helps kind of handle the conflict.
I think Jenny hit the nail on the head about miscommunication and assumptions. We do not make ours like an interrogation. In our line of work where we have a lot of stories to tell. Okay, what happened? What did it do? And we kind of have to go. I think the interrogation, though, does not need to happen. It's just the open conversation for sure.
I think there's healthy conflict and unhealthy conflict. I mean, I do like some healthy conflict within my team. I think problem solving, right? The ice machine's not working, and somebody's like, well, I think it's this, and they tried that, and they're, I think there's pieces of healthy conflict where we can all grow a little bit if we have a disagreement and we can learn from each other's perspective. So I think that's important. What I don't think is important is unhealthy conflict, and I had a situation. I had a pot stir in my team. She was super nice to my customers, made my customers have the most amazing day. The baristas that she worked with did not have an amazing day, and they hated their life every time they had to work with her, and they told me that. And so, I mean, I addressed it head on, right? Similar to what Kayla said, I didn't interrogate necessarily, but I was like, help me understand what happened here, from both perspectives, and got the story from both perspectives, and kind of found out what was happening. And I shared with her, I was like, I think you're stirring the pot. Like, I see the way you're treating the customers, and I love that. I love the way the customers leave here feeling amazing and having an amazing experience. What I don't love is how the baristas feel when you're working with them. And what I need you to do is have that same enthusiasm for the customers as you do for your coworkers. And this is the last time we're talking about it. And she was gone in 2 days. Like, she just knew that was, she knew I called her bluff, right? And so I think they don't always work out like that. But I do think that it's just having that open, honest conversation with them and telling them, again, I told you, I need my team to work really smoothly together. I'm not in the store every day. I don't have time, and I don't have the ability to deal with problems like that. And so I have to find people that are excited to work together. And as soon as they're not, I have to address it, and I have to get it taken care of, because it will impact my team, and then it'll impact my customers, and then it'll impact my sales, because I can directly relate how my customers feel, how my baristas feel, to my sales dollars. I mean, I can see it on paper, and so I have to make sure that everybody loves where they're working, and that's super important to me.
We do have a couple more questions on our list here, but I want to take the time before as we approach the end of our time, to allow the floor. Does anybody have any questions that they would like to ask our panel before we move on with our final questions here?
I don't have a question, but I did want to mention to Miss Erin, evidently you're doing something great. I've actually went by your location in Midlothian 3 times. I work in Waxahachie. So when I had the opportunity to go buy scooters, your workers were amazing. At this point, they're calling me by my name, which I love. Coming from Louisiana, I
Thank you. We don't always get it right, but I do appreciate that. Thank you.
The staff is amazing at the Midlothian
Thank you.
location.
Thank you.
I had a question early when we first started. You gave a book, an audio book. There's two questions there, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
What was that audio book that you had mentioned?
I think I meant, Ideal Team Player.
DL Team Player.
Patrick, once you know.
And my other question was, when we first started, you guys talked about interviewing and how you, because I run into the issue where I hire for like speed and need, like I got 18 events and I'm 3 people short. So engaging with people, how do you gauge that on the interview process? Because I think that's a big thing with us. We want those people to have really good personalities, and how do you gauge that while you're interviewing somebody without them being in front of the customer? You know, what are some tips to kind of really see if this person is really going to be a good,
Like green flags instead of red flags.
I think Kayla mentioned, are they listening to me or are they just talking? Is a big one. I want them to be listening to me. So if they are just talking and I've asked them a question and they're not answering it, or I think that's the biggest one that I think what Kayla mentioned there. I don't know if you guys have something else.
Because I know that, you can give them scenario questions in your interview and they're going to make something up in their head. That's a good question.
I tend to do some formal interviewing, but also a little less formal, and just try to get to know them, ask them questions about them personally, like their family, what they like to do. I kind of see how they interact with those questions. Like, do they light up when they start talking about their family or friends or where they like to go? And then you just kind of make it a little more relaxed so that way they relax a little and you can see a little more of their personality. We also do a little bit of role playing when we hire someone too. Again, like most of the guys or people we hire are in sales, so they've got to have a specific kind of personality. We're not an aggressive roofing company, so the ones that give roofing companies a bad name, we are not that. And so we just, number one, we like people who have never worked for a roofing company before in their life. You can train a salesman just by their personality. So really it's just trying to make them feel comfortable. We can see a little bit of who they are coming through, and you're not going to be able to weed out all of the red flags. You're just not. And so there's going to be some that slip through the cracks that you hire, but I think it just kind of comes with consistency and just letting them know, I also look at people on social media. And if your social media does not align with what our culture and our guidelines are, and I can see that, you're definitely not getting past the first interview.
Yeah, I think to add to that point, just something I've seen before in interviews that I've done in interviews is ask, like in the middle of an interview, a question that isn't prepared for, right? Because many of us, when we go into an interview, we have a list of questions, especially now we have ChatGPT, they can give us, common questions and all stuff we can prepare. And so what happens when you take them off script? What happens? How do they react to something that is, not what they thought they were going to? So I'll ask, a common one I ask pretty often is, what is your go-to karaoke song? And, just the ability to shift gears kind of says a lot about their personality. And then the answer to the question says a lot about your personality, And so that's just something that I've seen that kind of works well to identify how well people can do the interpersonal side of work. So.
I would just add that we thrive for us personally on referrals. So when you have your solid people and you need those 3 or 4, because we're kind of in the same boat where it's like we have to quick hire sometimes, even though we plan as far as advanced we can. Referrals are like the cream of the crop. Because when you have your solid people, obviously ours are 16 to 18 is our employees. We love it. Like we have 5 kids ourselves, so we love that we're their first job. Like we love bringing them in and we're gonna be here forever. You're gonna always remember us. In a bad way sometimes.
It's very hard.
But it is hard.
Body, sometimes.
But
I mean,
referrals are like your go-to.
it's a tough thing. I mean, you want to have that great person, but in our business, obviously yours sounds like the same thing. I mean, you have to have a spot.
Yeah.
I mean, you gotta have
Gotta have the mover,
so
the
bad to
mover,
say it,
and
you gotta have a
the-
warm body, but you gotta have that sometimes.
And I think always hiring.
Always
Always
Always.
hiring. I
Every
mean,
week I hire 1 or 2 people every
Yeah.
week. I
And-
don't stop hiring.
We need about 25
Yeah, always hiring. And I interview almost every candidate that applies because, again, I don't look at that application. I don't look at where they worked before. I want to have a conversation with them and understand a little bit about them. You said speed. How fast are they talking? I'm sorry, but I've never had a fast employee that talks slow. It just isn't. Like, I mean, I haven't. And so how fast are they talking? And to Jenny's point, when you're having a conversation with them and you're asking about their family, are they asking about my family?
Right.
Are they wanting to know a little bit more about me? Because I don't want them at my window talking about themselves. I want them learning about the customers and having that authentic conversation with the customers. So again, it's that back and forth dialogue.
So we're pretty close on time. So I have one last question for the panel, and then a couple of announcements for everybody, and I'll let everybody get out of here.
But I'm ready for my karaoke song.
Love Story by Taylor Swift. That's the right answer. If you could give one piece of advice about building and coaching a team, what would it be?
I think,
A nugget for everyone to leave
Yeah,
with.
always hiring, always coaching. You're always drafting. You're always trying to find that next quarterback, and who is that person, and finding the diamond in the rough. There are a lot of people out there that have never had a job. Don't give up on them just because they don't have the skills. If they have a personality of working hard and trying hard, they're going to be your best employee.
Kind of going off what Erin said, interviews can be very nerve-wracking. They might have prepared for your interview and bought that tie all to go to that interview that day, and could sometimes have a little faith in them. A lot of people, not everyone can be coached, but remember that might be their first job, whatever their circumstance might be, and just have a little faith and help them along the way.
With me, I just focus on building our people. So your team is going to be your greatest asset. So when your people grow personally and they grow professionally, your business is naturally going to grow with them. So the more that they feel confident, the more they feel secure, the more that they're going to protect your business also. So just success isn't about what you build as a company. It's about the people that you develop and what they can do for you.
Well, I want to thank our panel. If we could get a round of applause for Jeannie, Kayla, and Erin for a great panel today. We do have a couple of chamber events coming up. We'll start on May 13th. That is next Wednesday. We have our State of the County luncheon. Judge Ray will be there to deliver an update on everything going on in Ellis County from a legislative perspective. We're going to have lunch that day from Jalapenos Lemon Pepper, so be sure to go get your tickets online to attend that luncheon. It's a great opportunity to get involved and to understand kind of what's going on around Ellis County. May 21st will be our next networking event. We will also be at Jalapeno Lemon Pepper, so got a lot of jalapenos coming on this week. It is sponsored by Centennial Contracting and Roofing. So be there 5 to 7 at Jalapenos Lemon Pepper on May 21st. It's Thursday, May 21st. Right over there. If you don't know where Jalapenos is, it's kind of next to Frank Seal, but I think everybody knows where it is at this point. And then lastly, June 26th is our golf tournament. Save the date should be going out soon. We're going to be having sponsorships available very soon. So reach out to me, Chloe, Kenna, or Victoria for the opportunity to sponsor. We have whole sponsors available. We have some other little sponsorships available for that event. So please reach out if that's something that might be of interest to you. And then lastly, the business pitch competition. The applications are open. If you have more questions on that, you can go to our website or the Midlothian Economic Development website. And we're lucky to have Annabelle, who is Midlothian Economic Development, here to answer any questions about the business pitch competition if you have any before you leave today. So thank you all for joining us here today. And we hope to see you again next month on, I think, June 7th or First Thursday of June. Second Thursday of June. We'll have our next one. She's probably right, so I will go with her. So thank you, everybody, for being here. You have a great evening.